People who took revenge on their bully. What happened? Number 1. I learned how to fight, then beat the hell out of him. He left me alone from then on. Got in trouble with the school, but when they called my dad to tell him I was fighting, he said, "Yeah, I bet." I paid for the lessons. Was it that little jerk who's been bullying him? I did not get in trouble at home. Number 2. When I was about 7 years old, there was a girl on the bus who would pull my hair and pick on me. I would come home crying. My parents asked the driver to move our assigned seating, but they refused. My dad asked me how I could fix the problem. I responded, "How can I do anything if I'm not allowed to hit?" As was the rule. "Dad, you're not allowed to hit, but you're allowed to not get hit." He explained what I should do and I did it. When the girl sat next to me, I should put my back against the wall, my feet on her thigh and slide her off the seat. She fell, cried, I got in trouble and the assigned seating was moved. Problem solved. Story 3. My buddy and I pulled a prank on a bully called Adam during the last 2 weeks of high school. We were hanging out at home playing video games and Adam surprised us by stopping by, under the guise of wanting to be friends, despite having picked on us for the better part of 4 years, and one time, stabbing me with a pencil. Within about 5 minutes, he was pressuring me to write his final assignment for him. A speech for debate class. At first I said no, what is this, some comic book cliché? What will he demand next, my milk money too? But my buddy kept winking at me, putting the pressure on, and convinced me that we should do it. After some negotiation we agreed to put together a speech for him, but only if Adam would pay us $25, and also pick up a, rather elaborate, dinner order from Wendy's for us to eat that night. He agreed. My buddy and I ate well that night. And we had a plan. What we actually gave Adam was a quickly and pretty poorly written, and somewhat incendiary, speech about the silliness of Martin Luther King Day and how, if America really wanted to celebrate a true hero, it would instead be Joe Namath Day. I'm serious. That's what we wrote. We honestly believed Adam would read this at home, realize he'd been had, and be forced to rewrite and memorize a new speech in the wee hours of the night. Except it didn't go down that way. Imagine my surprise when Adam actually delivered that very speech in class the next day. He didn't have the memorization down, he kept referencing his papers, but he marched on. And the look on our teacher's face was just priceless. I think I peed my pants, I was giggling so hard. The other kids in the classroom were in shock. As I recall, the teacher made Adam stop his presentation. She told him to leave the classroom and she yelled at him in the hallway. As far as I know, Adam never fessed up that he hadn't actually written that paper, and I'm still not quite sure he ever really figured out just how brilliantly he'd been played. Number 4. A story about a friend of mine. Sophomores in high school, Eric Asterisk kept a Gatorade in the side pocket of his book bag for lunch every day. Just before second period would start, Eric would put his bag down in class and go to the bathroom. When he would come back, his Gatorade was always empty. This went on for about 2 weeks and no one would ever tell him who it was. When finally one day he came back from the bathroom to another kid running out of the room retching and holding his pants. Apparently, Eric had had enough of his Gatorade being taken and had put a few drops, half a bottle, of Visine in the Gatorade before he came to school. The kid had to be admitted to hospital a few days later for dehydration from so much throwing up/diarrhea from the Visine. Eric finally knew who it was and no one drank his Gatorade anymore. Number 5. There was a kid named Matt in my school who, in 8th grade, had developed a rating system for the girls based on the size of their breasts and kept getting away with saying gross things to them. He had been reported to the guidance counselor and faculty repeatedly, but they kept saying we can't do anything about it if we don't personally see it happening, which is like, do you think he's stupid enough to do it in front of you? He also kept calling me Mimi, after the Drew Carey Show character. I was getting sick of it after a few months and fruitlessly talking to the guidance counselor about that, as well. I finally realized that none of the adults were going to do anything about it. One day at lunch, he called me Mimi, and I turned around and told him, if you call me that again, you're not going to like my reaction. I don't know what I'm going to do, but you're not going to like it. Which was true, I just figured I'd react in the moment. 30 minutes later he called me Mimi in the hallway and I turned around and gave him a big, open palm roundhouse slap across his face. He was completely taken aback. All I had to say was, "I told you you weren't going to like it." I got suspended for a week. My parents were furious at me. However, Matt never harassed anyone again. He was totally polite from that day forward. I don't generally advocate violence, but I still feel like it was a proportional response to months and months of gross behavior on his part, especially in the absence of adults who were willing to hold him accountable. I told the administration and my parents as much when I received my suspension. Big shrug. Number 6. I grew up in a small town. We had one girl everyone thought was the prettiest girl in the whole wide school. She was a mean, petty girl. Truly awful. For example, my cat died when I was in 5th grade. She sat behind me muttering about how funny it was that my cat died, that he was a stupid cat, that he died because my mom was too poor to take him to the vet, and urging me to cry. Are you gonna cry? Are you gonna cry about it? Like a big baby? Big baby cry over your stupid cat? Everyone's gonna see you cry. You're about to cry, aren't you? And so on. This wasn't even the meanest thing she did. And she was mean to everyone. One day in 6th grade, I'd had enough. She didn't even do anything truly awful. I was just like, to hell with Jennifer G, and decided to do something about her. I stole one of my mom's little index/recipe cards and meticulously wrote "I stuffed my VRA" in big bold letters. I stuffed that and a little gold safety pin in my jacket pocket. The next day I carefully affixed this to the back of her pink members only jacket just before first bell rang. She walked around with this damn note on all day, confused as to why people were laughing at her. She screamed and screamed when she found it. And she cried. Everyone saw her cry. Number 7. I was working at my university in the Division of Student Life as a GA, and had worked myself into a great position where people trusted me and relied on my advice. One night at a big party at a local university bar, I had the craving for a cigarette. I asked this group of girls if they had one, and being one to not bum straight up, I offered a coupon I had for free McDonald's fries if someone would give me one. One of the cuter girls there with a pink stripe in her hair said yes, pulled out her cigs, and I gave her the coupon. She then put her cigs back in her pocket and told me to bugger off after stealing my fry coupon. I was angry at this point and tried reasoning with her. Seriously, over one cigarette? She then called over a couple of guy friends and said that I was falsely accusing her of stealing from me, and her friends all backed her up. She looked me in the eyes and said, "You shouldn't be so trusting." Fast forward to Monday, we had job interviews for the division and I happened to be passing through replacing a computer. I also happened to see the same pink stripe in hair individual that had stolen the McDonald's coupon from me the week before in line. I went to the person conducting the interviews and told him that she was a thief and a liar. On my way out, I smiled and waved. She didn't recognize me. She didn't get the job, and the interviewer thanked me for my contribution to the interview process. Number 8. I had a friend who had a bully. He had a locker above my friend and would intentionally drop books on her head, push her around, insult her throughout the year, and we all had a class together where he was generally a douchebag to anyone that he could. Before class started and anyone else was in class yet, the teacher had to step out for a bit, and it was just us three in the room. My friend was and still is very tiny, but that day, it didn't matter. She snapped and had enough of his teasing and went on the attack. I don't think she could have done much damage on her own, but I stepped in. Puberty was swift for me and I was one of the largest kids in school. By 5th grade I was already the size of an adult woman. I pinned him to the wall and let my friend kick the hell out of him and punch him in the balls. He didn't speak to either of us after that, and we never got into any trouble. I don't think he wanted to tell anyone that he got beat up by a couple of girls. Number 9. I used to get bullied for my lunch money in middle school by two guys for a year. One of which used to be my friend in elementary school. They would sucker slap me across the face from behind, push me against lockers, spear me. This was when Goldberg was popular in WCW. It got worse because this girl who I am still friends with would stick up for me. What made it worse was because of the fact she was a girl sticking up for a boy, which in their words made me a pathetic wimp. Well, as time progressed, I started growing pretty rapidly in height, towering over them, while the two guys were pretty much the same height or only grew a couple inches. They stopped picking on me physically obviously, but verbally kept at it. I guess I just snapped because they were picking on one of my other friends for lunch money, and I kneed the guy in the solar plexus and just rammed the other guy's head to a water fountain as hard as I could. The feeling I got after doing that made me so violently hyped and surprised at how light they were. All three of us got ISS for a week. They avoided my presence ever since that incident. I did have to watch my back though, because their friends threatened to jump me. Nothing came of it, just a bunch of scared loud hyenas with hurt egos.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories.